Hello everyone, this is Masood. Let's dive into the Quran, Surah 41, continuing from the previous video. وَقَالُوا, they say, it's only a moment away before you know who these blokes are. قُلُوبُنَا فِي أَكِنَّةٍ, our minds are occupied. They say, our minds are really occupied and busy. مِمَّا تَدْعُونَا, from that toward which you invite us. إِلَيْهِ, O Muhammad, toward that which you invite us. Our minds are busy in the work of the day and rather concealed and covered from your invitation. مِمَّا تَدْعُونَ إِلَيْهِ, toward which you invite us. A very thoughtful and peaceful response. Muhammad was meted with a very kind of logical to them response in which there is no chasm being drawn, not just yet. It's a little town, Makkah, as an Arab says it, Makkah, not like the English man pronouncing that word as Mecca. The Arab says it as Makkah. Nice little town where there were tribal associations and there was some sort of a peace accord. Muhammad came from a noble tribe, like his tribe had authority over the place in its religious affairs. Of course, the religion was paganism. There were hundreds of idols housed in the Kaaba, the holy shrine, the house of God, once built by Ibrahim, the father of Isaac, Ishaq, and Ismail. It is, in fact, Abraham and Ishmael that erected that house, dedicated to God. But history had tamed Ishmael's progeny, just like it had happened with the Jews in that region after they were rescued from Egypt, from the dreadful bondage. And a series of prophets that appeared amongst them. After the pass of Moses, David and Solomon, still, they succumbed to the worship of foreign gods, the idol gods, because of the dominant culture that surrounded them. That's what happens. Truth dilutes in the march of history and, in the march of time. Similar situation was showing up in and around the holy shrine that Abraham and Ishmael once erected to the dedicated only to the worship of one God, was now a house that housed hundreds of idol gods. So to the people, the news of one God really was foreign to them, even though they did recognize Almighty God as one God. Kind of like even today, if you go to India, Hindu people who have and worship multitudes of God still at the back of their mind, and they would without hesitation tell you, inform you that the real God is just one God. But they have this heritage of numerous other gods whom their families or society have been dedicating towards, which is very hard to abandon or quit or that sort of a thing, baggage basically. So the same problem with everyone, the tribe of Prophet Muhammad, the children of Ishmael had similar problems. So one of the calm responses that Muhammad received as he opened up his call to family and friends and the chiefs of Mecca who were in charge as authority to mend the affairs of the town, they said, قالوا, they said, قلوبنا في أكنة, our minds are occupied, they're rather concealed, Muhammad, مما تدعونا إليه, toward that which you invite us. We are not able to comprehend, O lad. We are busy in the walk of life. في أكنة, our comprehension is rather concealed. It's invested somewhere else. We cannot redirect our attention to a call that you make, which doesn't really make sense to us, which contradicts our culture, heritage, and tradition. We are Arabs. We are a people who follow in the footsteps of our fathers. And our fathers, we have found them to be dedicated to these gods. We cannot turn around. وَفِي آذَانِنَا, and our ears, وَقَرٌ, are heavy at your speech. We feel like our ears are deafened. What kind of a speech is this, gentleman? We know you as an ordinary man, socializing, interacting with us on day-to-day life matters and day-to-day life business. We know you as a very good person in our town. But what is this over the night? Your speech is hurting us. We feel our ears are deafened. What's gone wrong over the night? Are you okay? وَمِن بَيْنِنَا, now that you insist, there is between us, وَبَيْنِك, and you, حِجَابٌ, a clear barrier. The ears hurt. The result is a barrier. Hijabun, there's this wall between you and us. Just go away. Fa'amal. Muhammad, just go away. Do what you want. Don't bother us. We are in charge to the affairs of this town. We'll do. Innana. We will do. Amilun. What we feel like and are required to be doing. We are the chiefs. Don't tell us. Don't whisper these evil things on our table. It's disrespectful. It's hard on us. It's hurting us. It's belittling our legacy of our fathers. There's a barrier between us. Hijabun. Qulubuna fi akinnatim. Our minds, our attention is covered up from your call. We want to guard it. It's concealed. We don't listen to you anymore because it hurts our ears. It deafens our ears. The things that you put on the table, تدعون إليه, is not in the direction of our thought and our interest. While the Arabs, they knew Allah as a proper noun. Al-Ilah forms the word Allah. Al is the. The meaning of Al is the. It's an identity of a proper noun, the. Ilahun is God. Al-Ilah, Allah, is the God. The Arabs recognized this word. They were really familiar with this word, and it was in day-to-day use. Allah, the God. But as I told you, in pagan culture, there is an assimilation of gods and a form of association between these different concepts of tiny little gods along with the proper God cooks up. So that's what is pagan culture. So somehow the logic is dismissed and the rationale is botched to include multitudes of God, still honoring the supreme God. Muhammad was certainly saddened. A very sad situation for him. He's told to do what he would like to. Fa'amal, go away, Muhammad, if you don't want to be with us. Don't want to be one amongst us. You want to be the one that belittles our heritage, our culture, tradition. Go do what you want. Innana amilun. We are the ones in charge. We will do what's required of our authority. A very calm and peaceful response indeed. They're not beginning to undo the tribal accord. They're not really starting sharp. They're not really chaotic. They're not just yet axing a crevice. Not just yet. God, He knows the psychology of man. It's mysterious. Immediately, whatever the psychology conjures up, God becomes aware of it. So He informs Muhammad. He says, Qul, announce to them, tell them, إنما, I'm only, أنا بشر, I'm only a man. I'm not claiming to be a superman. I'm not claiming I'm any different. I'm not claiming that I should be some sort of a, that happens in this society, pagan society. People become, over the night, they claim big things, future telling, fortune telling, or whatever you call it. They magically, they claim magical powers. That's what happens in the pagan society. And they claim to be the superhuman, the son of God kind of thing, you know what I mean? Or an angel or something like that, to assert superiority. But God informs Muhammad to inform them, to tell them, to announce to them that I'm the same human being that socialized with you just a day before. I'm still the same, just a man. إنما أنا بشر. Indeed, I'm only a man, just like I was before this event actually happened over the night. I'm still the same man. مثلكم, just like you, the same person, the same ordinary folk. Nothing different. The only difference that took place that eventful night, over the night, that changed everything and is making me do what I'm doing right now, is I'm being inspired. Yuha ilayya. It's being revealed to me. A message. It is wired to me. A message, a revelation has hit me. That's the only change. So Muhammad informs them, I'm only a man like unto you. The only difference over the night was Gabriel showed up, the archangel. He inspired me with words and commissioned me for a task. That's the only change. And my duty now, as a man commissioned by God, is to read out to you that which He gives me. Yuha ilay. Yuha ilayya. The words will drop on me, and I'll have to speak it out. That's the only difference. Annama ilahukum ilahun wahid. What are those words? The words are sharp. The words are dividing. The words are powerful. Truth. That annama ilahukum, your God. Ilahun is a God. Wahid, unique. Just one. He's a unique God. He's one. Your God is one. Those are the words. Simple, but painful. For a society dedicated to idols, those are the painful words that you ever want to speak to the face of a man that owns in his heart multitudes of gods. That's the last thing that you want to say to them. If one of them is your friend, that's the last thing that you want to say to them. And here is Muhammad, surprised, taken by surprise at that eventful night when Gabriel showed up. Wasn't expecting that to happen to him. But after that eventful night, the night the town was wrecked. The town stood on the brink of being divided, sharp as it was. There is no God but one. So, it hurt them. The ears were deafened to listen to that news from a noble, amongst the tribes of Makkah. He had noble heritage. From that noble, it meant something. It meant that they can't be dismissive. They had to deal with it at some point in time. So how they dealt with it? وَقَالُوا, in a calm way. They did not want to do or act suddenly. They did not want to do that knee-jerk reaction, just not yet. Not just yet. They were calm. They were accommodating. They were tolerant. They were wanting to do some peaceful dialogue. So what was the response? قُلُوبُنَا فِي أَكِنَّةٍ Muhammad. Our minds are occupied in the affairs of the town, Muhammad. مِمَّا تَدْعُونَ إِلَيْهِ From the stuff that they throw on the table and you invite us to it. No, we don't have any intentions of redirection. I'm busy. We're busy, man. Go, lad. Do what you want. فَعْمَلْ. But Muhammad was not to stop there. He couldn't. It wasn't his choice. He was not this brave heart, daring, with a revolution. He wasn't that kind of man. Very calm, peaceful, gentle, well-mannered. Yes, of course, spoke the truth all the time, and he was known in Makkah, even before he made this call to God, he was known as Sadiq al-Amin. That's how they identified him, and they trusted him. People used to bank with him, like they would just deposit their trustworthy items and their possessions with him. Not as a bank that lends with interest. No, not that kind of thing. They would just deposit with him to keep it safe. And he was trustworthy. He spoke the truth. Those were some of his attributes even before he broke out with this call in town. But now, this man is not stopping. فَاسْتَقِيمُوا is the next order. Lead your way straight to God. Be sincere. Come forward being upfront. Be upright. What is this you're doing? You're dismissing your intellect and succumbing to this worship of handmade gods. Turn from that Stop doing that. Your God is one Lord, Wahid. Fastaqimu, so therefore lead your way unto Him. Now that bothered the chiefs and his relatives, because it was becoming harder for relatives to walk about, because they get taunted, and they have to reassure the people of the town that they still belong to them. They're one amongst them. While their relative, their son, their nephew, their man, the noble, the trustworthy, the truthful, the star of the family, he kept on iterating, one God, lead your way unto Him. Stop what you're doing. Abandon your tradition, your culture. Just turn to this one God and keep up to Him. Imagine, that's really hard. That's really hard. No one does that today in this society, modern society, freedoms and liberties, freedom of speech. No one does this today. No one, people give it 100 thoughts before they actually think of converting, you know what I mean? Especially to Islam. No, out of question. Even though they know Islam is an advanced version of Christianity, just super good, they don't do it. Because it's so difficult to go against the set principles of the society, the set functioning, the value system of the society. So difficult to stand against it. And to preach exact opposite things to their faces, out of question, out of my talents or skills or abilities or whatever you call it. Difficult to do. So as you walked about in a town where everyone knew everyone, small little town, not a big city, but millions of people now. 1400 years ago, 6th century AD, Mecca, of course, a central trading city, because the city, even though it's on the one edge of the peninsula itself, was a central town because because of its importance of religious center, where they were housed with many different gods, and the surrounding Arabs, the different tribes of Arabia, headed to it, and it was a long-standing tradition, since the time of Abraham, that he built this house, and the Hajj was announced to people by Abraham himself. So it had a long-standing thousands, at least 3,000 plus years of tradition happening in that place. So that kind of earned, the central position in Arabia, and all the tribes would come, bring revenue, much needed revenue to the town. So the gods that housed, over the time, collected this sort of bringing revenue into the town kind of culture. It still happens. It's no surprise. Muslims from all over the world head to Mecca, and it's a lot of revenue to them. So they could have done this with just one God, That's how it started with Abraham, one God, and it got people from across the Arabistan, the Arab Peninsula. Still one God, but still generated revenue. But over the time, as I said, they succumbed to lies, and as the children of Isaac had succumbed to the worship of foreign gods, the similar thing happened, because dominant cultures eventually penetrate every fringe of the society. So the same thing had happened in Mecca. Kaaba was now housed with multitudes of God that brought a lot of people from the surrounding peninsula, and was a lot of revenue. And no one gives up business today. Profitable business, who sells? Who gives it out? For no price, for potentially going bankrupt. Who does that? No one does that. And that's exactly the call that Muhammad was announcing. Abandon your gods for one God. Fastaqimu, lead your way unto Him. Who does that? No one does that. It's not courage to talk up to their faces in a tribal society where things can go wrong really soon, really quick. People go out loud and they can just strike you dead. And that's why for his tribe, for his uncles, Muhammad's uncles, were beginning to see those grim faces in the town as they walked. They had to justify, they had to substantiate again that they belonged to them. They were Arabs and they were still a part of those heritage and culture. It was getting harder on them. The duty to protect Muhammad from the vengeful eyes, from the wrath of the chiefs of Makkah, was getting harder by the tick of the day. It was not courage of this man. No. The best description I can give was he had absolutely no choice but to speak, because it was God, the Lord of the heavens armies, the irresistible. He had made a decision. He had chosen a man. Mustafa, a chosen man is Mustafa, and that was Muhammad. وَاسْتَغْفِرُوهُ, he cries out to them, seek His forgiveness, plead His forgiveness. He's a forgiving God. He's a merciful God. He's a God of grace. He is willing to forgive you your trespasses, your violation of your intellect, the abilities and the prowess of a human that He awarded us. You've dismissed it to succumb, to stoop low, to worshipping something that your own hands manufacture. So seek forgiveness. Wastaghfiruh. He's willing, He's ready, He's up His sleeves to forgive you. Seek His forgiveness. But as we saw in the previous video, they were deafened, blinded, and dumbed. And as we saw here, a very calm response. Now we are busy, Muhammad. Our minds, our ideas, our thoughts, our worries, they're concealed from yours. They're covered up from yours. Fiakin, our minds are busy, preoccupied. In the qualms of this life, we have got a duty to do in Makkah. We are in authority. Go do as you like. If you don't want to be one amongst us, go do as you like. Fa'mal. Innana amilun. We will work out what we need to do. So there comes a warning, a threat. Wawail, wawail, woe. If you don't plead forgiveness, woe is be to you. Woe be to you. Misfortune be to you. That's what it means. Misfortune be to you. Who does that? Again, I'm telling you, who does that? Back in the day, no freedoms. No greater understanding of freedoms of speech, of freedom or liberty. Nothing of that sort. Who does that? It doesn't happen today in the modern world. It doesn't happen. People don't go against the value system of the society. They don't want to be that odd man out. They just want to be assimilating a particle in a wave, to be smooth, to sail smooth, not to have any troubles in life. No one does that. It's not courage, as I pointed. Think for a moment. Pause the video if you would like to. It's not courage. It's facing a situation where you have no choice and your consciousness has fully submitted to the truth that's made open to you. Fully submitted. You've been convinced. How can you not be when it's revealed to you and an angel showed up? How can that be? No way. No way. It's certainty of the highest level. You're certain. It's just not truth that's slowly lighting you up from inside. No. It's your eyes have seen it. Your senses have received it. It's certain truth. And therefore, the way forward is without a choice. وَوَيْلٌ. He dared to say that. He had to, because he had no choice. On their faces, وَوَيْلٌ. Woe be to you. Misfortune be to you. لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ. To the people who mix up faith with one God. Those folk that mix up faith with one and only God. The descriptor for them is mushrik. Mushrik. That's the descriptor. People of mixed faith. People of mixed faith with one God. There is an aspect much larger than the basic to this word, and that is, it is not just an object of an idol that renders or characterizes you to be a mushrik, to be an associator with God. To be an associator with God. But it is far subtle than that. The object of an idol emanates and becomes a reality with an idea in the heart and mind. Your desires cook up an idea, and it manifests in the objective reality. So, people sharpen their tools to manufacture the idol of their thought. And that becomes a god in manifestation that people begin dedicating to it. That renders them or characterizes them as mushrik. The subtlety that God points out in a different verse in Surah 45, chapter 45, you can see, أَفَرَأَيْتَ, have you seen, have you come across, مَنِ اتَّخَذَ, the one who takes for himself ilahun, a god, hawahu, his passion, his desire, his thoughts, his ideas. That's what it is. This is the characterization of birthing a new God. Hawa, his desire, his passion, his his false thinking. That's what is false down there, deep down there. The desire. It may not be an idol God that you're wanting to bring out, but your preference of doing what you wish, doing what you desire, being dismissive of objective facts, being dismissive of objective reality and factual nature, the facts, the truth, the evidence, dismissing these important elements of the greater reality is what is false desires, is what makes a false God inside of you. Preference of material, preference of money over and above heeding to Almighty God and His teachings. Just that, preference of money, that's your God. You worship money above, over and above that you should be heeding toward God. See, that's a God, the money God. Preference of your position, your status, whilst you're dismissing the greater reality, the truth, the progression toward truth. You're being dismissive because you have a preference. You got to guard something. You got a position. You got a status. Any preference, any desire, any passion that over and above dismisses God and His duties and His teachings, you become characterized as a mushrik. That's the meaning of this verse, this part of the verse. أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you met a person? Have you seen a person? Have you come across a bloke who has taken a God, his own desires? وَأَضَلَّ اللَّهُ. And God has rightly so strayed him. He's strayed. He's not on a straight path. He's strayed. He's deviated. وَأَضَلَّ اللَّهُ. And God has deviated him, strayed him. عَلَى عِلْمٍ. Upon the knowledge of him, upon the knowledge of his passion, upon the knowledge of his false desires. وَخَتَمَ عَلَى سَمْعِهِ. And his hearing is impaired. He can't listen to truth anymore. وَقَلْبِهِ. And his brain is knocked off. The neurons are hardened. His brain is no more soft to take in the information that belongs to the camp of truth. No, he's not willing anymore. وَجَعَلَ عَلَى بَصَرِهِ. And he's blinded. غشاوة. There's a screen. He can't see truth anymore. He can't see the evidence. He can't see the signs anymore. There's a multitude of signs in the cosmos, in the horizon, and in your own self, and in the environment on earth. People don't see it. People conceptualize it in a different way. Natural selection, random natural selection. No, there's no hand of God. It's just random. The punishments of God, they don't see it. They say, it's climate change. It's climate change, blokes. Climate has changed. No, it's God that punishes you. It's God that commands the winds to bring in tornadoes, hurricanes. You name it. It's God who does that. No, it's climate change. Of course, I'm not in favor of the industry pumping carbon and muck into the environment. I want to breathe free. The Chinese, they don't give a damn to climate change, to be honest. And they don't even care about God. They don't even say it's God's punishment. No, nothing of that kind. Communists, they don't. They are not into this Abrahamic thing, to be short. So their position, when the cities were polluted, they couldn't breathe, and that's why they went on. They just swarmed into solar, electronic transportation and stuff like that, because they were breathing with difficulty. You know what I mean? The breath was not wholesome and pure anymore. It wasn't that they want to get out of their houses and breathe fresh air. It wasn't like that. It was all polluted, carbon monoxide or whatever, you know. So that drives them to clean it up. Go electronic, go solar, go green. That's required. We got to go and do that 100% because we want our ambience to be a bit cleaner. But that's not driving climate change and the storms and the hurricanes. And no, it's God. Be certain. It's God that brings the winds from the ends of the earth and troubles you with the troubles that you're meted with, the calamities. It's God who does that. To discipline a folk that's gone rogue. To discipline a folk that once worshipped and honored and revered the God. Yes. At this point, I would just like to bring you to read from the Gospel. You know, Jesus was rock solid battling this day in, day out. Day and night, you know his words. You know, the foxes have dens, the birds have nests, and the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. That's how he was working. No clothes to change, that kind of situation. No pillow to sleep. Imagine looking at a person like that. Imagine looking at a homeless person. You know, you would like to stay away from it, right? If that's what that was happening to Jesus. No shelter. No brand new clothes to change and, to look good. Day and night, he was battling the bias, the prejudice of his people. For they look, but they don't really see. They're blinded. They hear, but they don't really understand or listen. They're deafened. They won't understand. They will not comprehend because it's against their bias. Easy, simple words that God sends. Very plain, simple words. Abandon your gods. Don't belittle your intellect. Rise above. Don't stoop low to worship your own manufacture. Rise above. Worship only one God, the true God. No, you won't comprehend because it's against your bias. It's against your prejudice. It's challenging those honed traditions. The neurons are not strong. They're strong now. They're impenetrable. Truth does not penetrate those anymore. The hearts of the people are hardened. The brains are hardened, hardwired. The brain is hardwired. They cannot hear. They close their eyes. They won't turn to me and let me heal them. Messiah, Christ, willing to forgive them, willing to anoint them, heal their wounds, but they are not ready. The same situation with Muhammad. It became so hard at a point. They were not calm anymore. They were not nicer anymore in response. They drove They persecuted the weaklings that were embracing Muhammad's ideas and thoughts and Muhammad's message. The weaklings of the town. Those who did not have tribal associations, strong, defensive tribal associations, they were persecuted. Muhammad himself had to endure banishment for 3 years in the desert, where no one sold him anything, and his followers. No one traded with them. No one married them. They were just abandoned to the desert. And finally, they wanted to kill him. And get rid of the problem once for all, Take him away. Take him off. And that's the point of immigration, forced exile. So he had to go to the neighboring town, Medina, which was known as Yathrib, was renamed as Madinatun Nabi, the city of the Prophet. People there, they recognized truth. And the people of Yathrib, they invited the Prophet to be with them. And that's called the Hijrah, the immigration. Enduring all that. 13 years of persecution. Who does that? Who does that? Fa'mal. He did it. Muhammad did it. The Prophet of God. There's one very important information that I would like to share before I close today. You be an adulterer, you've done a lot of sins. Easy. God will forgive you. But if you are a characteristic liar, remember that? A characteristic liar, consistent with the character of lying, guarding your self-interests, protecting your position, your status, holding on to your bias and baggage. If you're a liar, you won't be set free. You will not be set free because you're not acting to seek truth. You will miss out on the opportunity to plead forgiveness with God. But if you're a fornicator, you fornicated all your life. You were into debauchery. And you knew that that's not the way of God. That's not God's ways. You will have the opportunity for yourself to plead forgiveness, and that happens. A lot of people turn to God and they'll be forgiven. As Jesus himself forgave by doodling on the ground. You remember the scene where he was doodling on the ground while the Jews wanted to punish a lady caught in fornication? And he set her free. He said to her, "Go do this no more." That happens. Easy for God to forgive adulterers. Easy for God to do that. But people who are consistent and are characteristically liars, to guard their self-interest, to hold on to their baggage, those folk that do not seek the truth, but rather enjoy divisions in religion, sectism. My church is the best church. We are the only ones loved of God, going to heaven, going to paradise. We are the best mosque. We are the best Muslims. We are the ones going to paradise. All that kind of talk. And not justifying why you are the best. Not coming to debate. Not coming to substantiating the truths that you've understood to be true. Not engaging, rather disengaging. Not seeking truth, but only asserting, only claiming. You won't be set free. you will be landed in prison, and the prison is hell. You won't be set free from there. Every time the inmates of hellfire, try to escape its boundaries, because they see at a distance, they see and sense the charm of paradise, abiding gardens, luxury, enjoyment, fun. They would want to free themselves from the boundaries and from those shackles in hellfire. Angels that are on guard of its boundaries, they will shove them in, right back there in the prison. They won't be set free because they did not care about truth. They were like monkeys. You know monkeys? You pet a monkey and immediately he throws scares on the visitors. So the monkey will begin owning you. That's what happens. That's what happened to the Jews. They began to own God so much that they looked down upon everyone else. They called them names, Gentiles. They did not deal with them properly. The same thing happened to Christians. Because of the superiority they feel. Superiority. We are saved. Salvation is ours. We are the right. We are on the right path. You know, the kind of attitude, my way or the highway kind of thing, happens amongst Muslims. Oh, we are going to Jannah. We're beating everyone there. You know, we are the ones. We are the favorites of God. Now, we are the Muslims. We are superior. That attitude will not set you free from hell. You will land in prison. That attitude will take you into prison because that attitude is making you disengaged. It's disengaging you. It's making you feel not humble. And anyone that is not humble will land in prison. That's all for today. I hope you've taken a thing or two. Throw a thumbs up. Or the opposite. Feel free to comment. Would like to see your comment. We'll see you in the next video.